till I die. Am I wrong? Cause I wanna get it on till I die. Get it on till I die. Get it on till I die. Y'all remember me? Y'all remember me?
Phone me out. Chicken chain. Told me you had all arranged. Hand me down.
Last chance, fancy pants.
Oh, very well.
Gotta get ready for the big paper. Hey, hey.
Am I wrong? Cause I wanna get it on till I die. Am I wrong? Cause I wanna get it on till I die. Get it on till I die. Get it on till I die. Y'all remember me?
I like the way you die,
Am I
boy.
wrong? Cause I wanna get it on till I die. Am I wrong? Cause I wanna get it on till I die. Get it on till I die. Get it on till I die. Y'all remember me?
I like the way you die, boy.
Only wish to breed, I explode into a million seeds. Y'all remember me? Legendary, live eternally. Bury me in pieces cause they fear. Reincarnation, niggas screaming peace cause they fear. When my squad face them, take them to places, take the face, then erase them and break them. Murder motherfuckers out of waiting and quicken and base. Blast me, but never ask me to live a lie. Am I wrong? Cause I wanna get it on till I die. Now, even if you blind, you can still see my prophecy. My destiny to overthrow those on top of me. Bitch made niggas in that bullshit you going through. Outlaws, busting, busting, we untouchable.
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in on Tuesday night at 8 p.m. I'm your host, Alec Holker, and thanks for tuning in on another episode of We're Gonna Need a Bigger Blog. And tonight, if you recognize the interesting mix between James Brown and Tupac, that was UnChained Payback from the soundtrack of Django Unchained, Tarantino's seventh film, and the topic of discussion tonight. And tonight, I got a special guest with me, Rocco Pangalo.
Yep, thanks. Good to be here.
Awesome, little short, and we've been talking about it already. We got here in the studio a little bit early, and we were already giving a little critique, giving a little praise to the movie, and it's gonna be a great evening. And Django came out in 2012, released on Christmas of 2012 with the opening of 30 million. But it's Tarantino's highest grossing movie all time with 162 million. And pretty shocking going against all the other Tarantino movies out there. Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, the Kill Bill series, Grindhouse. You ever see that one?
No, I did not.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird one.
Yeah, I haven't even heard of that.
Yeah, it's about a guy who is a stunt car driver that he like kind of flirts with girls in like a really like bar in the country, and then he'll like take them in his car, which the car is like the stunt car that he uses on scenes, and then he'll drive like 150 miles down the road and like get in an accident on purpose.
Okay.
And then they'll die because they won't be in like the stunt safe like seat that the stunt driver is in. Yeah. So it's kind of just like a really gross movie. And
that's kind of interesting because he's coming out with a new one about a stunt man with that Brad Pitt plays with DiCaprio. So
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. That'll be
kind of interesting. He likes to go with kind of behind the scenes in Hollywood on the plot lines. But
are you excited? I'm excited for that. I didn't know what it was about, but
I'm excited for it. The trailer is really kind of, it doesn't really give a lot.
Super vague.
Yeah, it's like they try to portray, from what I got from it, was DiCaprio is kind of this over-emotional actor who's trying to just be validated. You know, the scene I remember in particular is when the little girl tells him he's a great actor, and then he starts crying. And that's supposed to be, I don't know if that's supposed to be a funny moment or it's, so already off the bat, the tone's all over the place. So we'll see how that turns out.
I'm excited. It's even though he said after The Hateful Eight that was kind of like going to be his last one, but now he's got there's Al Pacino in it, Margaret Robbie, Brad Pitt, Leo, who's the kung fu guy?
Not Donnie Yen, but yeah, I know who you're talking about. He's supposed to play Bruce Lee.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So that'll be really good. But out of all the Tarantino movies, I wanted to choose Django. Django is up there as my favorite Tarantino film.
Wow.
Yeah. I think I watched it at I was in the beginning of high school, and as Jamie Foxx just kind of portrayed as this the slave, but then turns awesome hero, kind of getting revenge, but also he's saving his wife. He's like getting his wife back. That was awesome. Also, I loved Dr. King Schultz as played by Christoph Waltz. And then, of course, you got DiCaprio as a crazy plantation owner. Kerry Washington, very beautiful woman, as Hildy. And then, of course, Samuel L. Jackson coming in as kind of just like a little background role, but also very, very important to the last half of the film. And so with Django Unchained is with the help of a German bounty hunter, a freed slave sets out to rescue his wife from a brutal Mississippi plantation owner. And like I said, Django is played by Jamie Foxx, and he has a lot of acting credits out there. I think this was kind of one of his more like action roles. I normally see him more in kind of a more calmly movies like Law Abiding Citizen.
Yeah,
did you ever see that one?
And I did not see that one, but I
Yeah.
saw the one, the old pianist, the blind pianist Ray.
Ray, as he plays Ray Charles. Yeah,
That's the name. But that was a pretty good movie.
that's a fantastic movie. That's one of
Yeah, and then it's kind of weird because he's so talented. He's a rapper and he's a comedian, and so it's kind of weird seeing him in an action setting. I remember when he almost seemed too stoic at first, but then as the movie got on, his character developed. But
Have you ever seen the interview with Jamie Foxx where he talks about Tarantino's directing style?
yes, I was gonna bring that up. It was with Howard Stern.
I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
Okay, well, this is the one I was thinking of. Jamie Foxx was talking with Howard Stern about Tarantino in general, and Howard Stern asks him, what's he kind of like? Does he give you any leeway or anything? And Jamie Foxx goes, absolutely not. And he's like, you know what? And Jamie Foxx praised him for that. He said, I absolutely want a director like that who's going to be, it's going to be my way or the highway, or if the ship is going overboard, he knows it and he's going with it. So
Yeah.
I would go watch it. It's a minute and a half YouTube clip, but
Yeah, it's awesome.
Basically, Jamie Foxx tells Howard Stern that Jamie Foxx came in all
Gucci bag,
all badass
Range Rover.
yeah, his Louis bag, and then he came in all badass and started reading his lines, and in Jamie Foxx's direct words, he goes "Buh-duh-buh-duh-buh-duh," like acting really, really badass, and Tarantino says, "Can I talk to you for a minute?" and basically bitches him out for 30 minutes saying, You're not cool.
Yeah, you're not Jamie Foxx.
You're not cool. You're coming with your little Louis bag and your Volkswagen. You're a slave, and then you'll be the hero, but he's a slave.
Right now, you are a slave.
Yeah.
And I think, I bet some people would say, working with Quentin is terrible. But I feel like most people, like Jamie Foxx said, it was one of the best experiences I had. Because you're here, or, you're here the highway. Mm-hmm. It's my way or the highway. And I think that's what kind of makes him so unique. All his movies are very gruesome.
Yeah.
But they're also... They kind of stick to the same, there's this kind of someone who's went through a lot of struggles, but then they come out eventually as the hero. Mm-hmm. You could say they're maybe coming back for revenge or vengeance, but you could also say it's also justice.
Yeah.
I think this is could go both ways. He's saving his wife, but he's killing a lot of slave owners and plantation owners.
Yeah. And one of the things he's done with that is he takes revenge stories and works them really well with the setting. So, in Kill Bill, it was all about the East, the Far East kind of setting, and then this one he took the old Western setting.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
That's always been his strength. But then again, he doesn't give his actors a lot of leeway, but then he gives himself a lot of leeway. So I remember watching an interview talking about how he made Inglourious Basterds, and Christoph Waltz basically said that.
He's in that too. Wow.
Tarantino gave everyone kind of a 2-week break during the holidays, and he came back with a stack of about 2 inches thick of paper, and that was the rewritten script. And he said,
wow.
And it was all edits of the script. So they basically said, okay, cut everything we just did. I'm changing all this. So you can tell he puts a lot of pressure on himself to get it right, but then he also puts a lot of pressure on the actors to say, hey, this is my script. Don't screw with it. These are my words. Just read what you got to do. So,
and Quentin has been known for many films. Like I said, Pulp Fiction, like all-time classic movie, cult classic. That people honestly, I would say when you say Quentin Tarantino, I think that's the first film that people think of.
Yeah, you said Django was your favorite movie. I think Pulp Fiction was mine. Just because that was the first one I've watched.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's kind of, that's a very interesting movie to get started on in Tarantino. If I were to go back, I would want to watch Reservoir Dogs first. I probably would have understand Pulp Fiction a little bit more had I watched Reservoir Dogs first.
I watched Reservoir Dogs.
Which they're not, doesn't make sense because they're not even the same, not even sequels or anything to do with related.
But they're like just 2 years apart.
Yeah.
But like they also have like the same kind of like, there's like this kind of like secret mob that's like runs really the city. They have these planned bank jobs that are planned down to the minute. Yeah. Which is awesome. Reservoir Dogs is my second. That's my number 2. Because I was just going through back in the day, I was just going through Netflix and I saw this Reservoir Dogs and I saw Harvey Keitel, I saw Tarantino, and then what's the guy who plays Mr. Orange?
Eli Roth.
Eli Roth. Yeah. So I saw those.
Harvey
I was like,
Keitel, Eli Roth. Those two are really, really, really good.
Yeah. And so I saw those. I was like, all right, this has got to be good. It starts out just incredible. Takes a hard left turn with someone screaming. I'm just like, what is this?
Yeah.
What is going on? Yeah. But then he went on to make he went Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction. Then in between those, True Romance, which both Rocco and I had not seen.
Yeah, I have not seen that. Just because I think it's more because Tarantino only wrote it and he hasn't directed it.
Yeah, true.
So I should probably go watch that.
He did Jackie Brown, which I recently saw a quick scene on Twitter about Robert De Niro just completely shooting some girl in a parking lot. So that's right up Tarantino's alley for movie styles. Kill Bills. I'm a huge fan of the Kill Bills.
I do like the Kill Bills.
Yeah. Most people do not like those because they're really just straight to the face of assassins and ninjas and samurai swords, but I think that's what makes it awesome. Uma Thurman is just a complete badass in all of those.
I think the problem with Kill Bill that a lot of people think is that it's just so over the top.
Yeah, 100%.
It's by far the most over the top movies out of Tarantino.
I always kind of feel like it's a cartoon a little bit.
It really well, they have a cartoon in the one scene where they're talking about the origin story of
Uma's.
It's the Asian character in the first one. I can't believe I'm forgetting her name.
Go-Go?
No,
or like her lead, like.
Oh well,
there's the cartoon scene.
The main person, the main villain in the first one. I can't believe I'm forgetting her name. She was in Charlie's Angels.
The main. She was the leader of the 88.
Right.
Okay, Crazy 88s. Okay, I know who you're talking about.
I can't believe I'm forgetting her name, but
it's all right.
Anyway,
there's a lot of names. Then he did Grindhouse, which I talked about, which was kind of weird. Yeah. Bastards in 09, Django in 12, and then Hateful Eight. Which did you see Hateful Eight?
I did. I did see Hateful Eight. That was actually really recent.
Okay.
I would say that is his worst.
Yeah, definitely. No.
Worst movie that I've seen.
It was pretty bad. It was good. Yeah, but like
it was bad for his standards.
Super long.
Yeah,
and then kind of Channing Tatum just kind of came out of the basement. You're like, what?
I mean, a lot of the characters felt underutilized.
The trailer was better.
You felt trapped in that house just like the characters did because you just wanted something to happen. You wanted them to go somewhere, do something. You became claustrophobic watching that movie just because they were all sitting in a house not doing anything.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, let's get back to Django.
Yeah, let's get back to Django. So, it starts off. It's like they say it comes out with a little opening crawl. Also, an awesome song. The song is called Django. Which I always love that little song. Yeah. And you're like, oh, interesting. Okay, he literally just found a song or had someone write a song.
Now, I thought that came from the 1960s movie.
I did not know.
I think that did. Or I want to say it was either inspired by or it came from that 1960s movie.
Django song.
Because it has that, that kind of old spaghetti western tone to it. It sounds like it was recorded in the 50s,
Django.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Hold on. Let's check this out. Yeah, totally is. Yeah. So from the old, yeah,
That's what I was guessing.
that makes sense. Well, good. All right, way to go, Quentin. I didn't know that. Awesome. Okay, but it starts off that you're just observing this chain gang being escorted by two brothers that you don't really find out, but then you meet Christoph Waltz, who is a dentist, but secretly he's a bounty hunter, which is, I think, his attire, his costume. So I made a note to talk about the costume design, because there's fantastic costumes throughout the entire movie.
Yep.
And one of them is Dr. King Schultz, played by Christoph Waltz. He has this awesome top hat, but also his stagecoach just has a giant tooth on it. It's pulled by one horse. Whenever he says the horse's name, he does a neigh. Fritz. Yeah. And out of nowhere, he just kills both these guys right away.
What I really like is his German background, just because it's really, I don't think German or the kind of German heritage or German any aspect of having German heritage isn't really used in a Western at all. It's so I really like that aspect coming in, especially how important it plays in the plot. So
it really does. He has he tells a German story that relates to this whole dragon fighting, and then also he says, as a German, which kind of happens a little later, as a German, I'm obliged to help others.
It adds more mystery to his character, and adds it gives him this background to why he doesn't agree with slavery, or he wasn't born in the U.S., so he's not used to this idea of slavery. He's fine with bounty hunting just because it's a work, but
it pays well.
Yeah. So I like how it just adds a whole level of character that you really wouldn't expect in a Western movie. So,
and really, once Django and Dr. King Schultz, they start parting the ways from the chain gang, you see another really just kind of the staple Tarantino. One of the African Americans in the chain gang picks up the double-barreled and shoots one of the brothers that was escorting him. And rather than just hearing the sound of the shotgun, Quentin wanted to make sure that you see how gruesome this movie is going to be. Yeah. And there's a huge cloud of smoke. The entire head just explodes, and you're like, yep, this is a Tarantino film. All right, got to strap in. And then, so the first town scene, this is kind of this I would say established the setting and the time period very well.
Exactly, and this is why, and we talked about what were kind of our favorite scenes. I would say this one is my favorite scene, just because it introduces the setting so well, with excellent writing, excellent kind of suspense and surprise to it.
All the side characters are everybody's looking out the window why is there an African American on a horse?
Right.
When they go into the hotel, he's filling up the lanterns with gasoline, and all of a sudden he turns around, short zoom in on him, and he's like, whoa, hey, what are you doing? He's not allowed in here. Yeah. And immediately he runs out, gets the sheriff, which we learn that the sheriff has been a criminal for the longest time. Mm-hmm. And then we meet Dr. King Schultz's little wrist pistol.
It makes you think you could be that cool in that scary of a situation and keep that calmness, but like how Dr. Schultz did, and Christoph Waltz played that character in that part. But that in reality, I would be terrified trying to negotiate with a marshal.
Well, sheriff first, and then get the marshal.
Murdering a sheriff, and then explaining yourself to a marshal.
I want 13 rifles up there. I want 12 rifles over there.
Yeah, having 80 guns pointed at you.
Somebody get poor Bill's body out of the street. And you see Django. He's panicking.
Yeah.
And Dr. King Schultz, he's like, okay, all right. He empties out all his pockets, takes off his coat. He gets the bill of not warrant.
The bounty poster.
Bounty poster, right. He gets a bounty poster. He just walks out. He's got the judge, the bill signed by the judge, too. And then he's like, sir, you owe me $200. And then everybody's like, what?
Yeah.
And I think that that one that just shows kind of what King Schultz is really in for. I would say he's really good, but he's also in it for the money because it pays well. Mm-hmm. $200 back then, that's huge. That's massive. But also he wants to find the Brittle brothers. That's the main. That's really his first target. And we meet Don Johnson, who plays Big Daddy, and then this is really where the main costume design comes from. Django, Dr. King Schultz says, "Hey,
Yeah,
you can
the
you
Austin
can
Powers nod. Yeah.
the Austin Powers nod. Yes, definitely. He says you can pick your own. You can be whoever you want, and I don't think a lot of people were expecting him to pick something that radiant.
Yeah, it's just it's Tarantino just kind of trying to go as over the top as even in a Western film. He's trying to go over the top in whatever aspect he can.
I think
This is where it actually helps the film. So it just keeps it interesting. It's not boring. It's a trait of Quentin Tarantino that makes this movie better. So.
It's kind of like coordinates with the color. Like it's blue. Blue is very represented by a strong hero character. Dr. King Schultz, he's rocking the grays, so he's kind of in the neutral ground. As you kind of I
didn't think about that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. You gotta think about that. But this is so. I think what also helped me like make this one of my favorite Tarantino movies is so like it was like a meme. This was just when memes were coming out, but it was Django on the horse as like in his blue, and then like it was just like when I walk in the first day of school, it's like me, and then like everybody else is just like everybody else. Yeah, and it's hilarious. But this is the first plantation that we see. Big Daddy, which is played by Don Johnson. He is owner of the Big House, and everything else on the plantation is known as Big, or the Big Barn, or Big Fields. As you can also see, there's not very many educated people on this plantation, but it kind of works to Dr. King Schultz and Django's advantage. The Brittle brothers are here. They're going by a fake name, and this is really so. The Brittle brothers actually they do have some tie to Django, and that's why Django wanted also. He's very important to King Schultz because he knows what they look like. He's been on the same plantation as them, and they also they whipped his wife, which Tarantino has a scene. It's like a flashback scene, but it's very painful. Kerry Washington has a very powerful scream. Also, I don't know who the guys who play the Brittle Brothers are, but they're pretty terrifying.
I recognize the main one who has the scripture on his clothes. It's the first one that Django ends up. I recognize him from other movies. I can't.
Why do they? Okay, they don't
can never
show
pick it.
on the Seafood cast. There it is.
I can never figure out his name. I mean, that's the only one I recognize. The other two don't get much screen time to actually contribute.
To
a memory.
Big John, MC Gainey.
Big John.
Yeah, so there's Big John, Lil Raj, and Ellis, and Big John is he's the oldest of the brothers. I'd presume. He's also kind of takes charge. He has these scriptures. All kind of taped up on his shirt, and kind of makes it seem like he's religious about the whipping, which is kind of weird.
Right, and even a scene like where Broomhilda, who's Django's wife, when they end up running away, they have a flashback of them running away and getting caught. They have this kind of like 70s, filter on it, which I think it's just Tarantino trying to make it more interesting instead of having a completely dark take on it. It's more of just making it his own style. Not really any rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah.
So
it's a very I like that scene a lot, and I like that song Freedom. It's like I'm looking for freedom, and like right as like that freedom comes on, like you hear the dogs.
It's like, an upbeat. It's an upbeat song, but
it's like they're about to get caught, which is
exactly.
not. Which I mean, honestly, I think what it also portrays is that like many slaves tried to escape slavery multiple times, but it was also once you did, you were risking your life, and that was all point of the risk. Mm-hmm. So, we soon. So Django does some researching while Dr. King Schultz is in the house making a deal with Big Daddy. He says he wants to buy one of the slaves because they think Broomhilda is there. But I wanted to play this clip because this is Django's first kill, which is very important. We see Django's very first anger kind of come out and kind of the revenge that finally kind of comes to him. And it's one of the music, the costume, the whole scene. Tarantino just kills it.
And after this, we'll see if you break eggs again.
John Brill!
Remember me? I like the way you die, boy.
And that just like the flashback that we saw very shortly. Not Big Daddy.
Big John.
Big John. He says to Django, "I like the way you beg, boy." And it kind of comes full circle. But shortly after, Django picks up the whip while Little Raj is fumbling the pistol and whips Little Raj off his feet. Very painful. There's a lot of cracking of the whips. You see Little Raj get whipped in the ear. And every time I see that, I just can't even imagine what that would feel like a full Indiana Jones whip to the face. Like, talk about just losing a lot of your hearing.
Yeah, it's a good way to just put in some poetic justice at the beginning of the movie, and the first or second act. I'm curious what would have happened if Tarantino would have put this scene of them tracking down the Brittle Brothers after he got Broomhilda back, just to kind of top off the movie with some poetic justice to end, or some revenge. But I think what he was thinking was that this wasn't exactly a complete revenge story. So it kind of set the tone.
This was kind of like step one of the revenge, and then of course we find out Hildy is not here at the plantation. Also, one of the shortly after.
Oh, I forgot about that plot point too.
What?
This is where they figure out Broomhilda's not there.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So Hildy's not there, but one of the kind of not. I would say it's a little comedic, but when Dr. King Schultz comes back to he comes to Django because he hears the shooting, of course, because Django actually ends up putting 6 shots into Little Raj while he's just on the ground. But King Schultz brings over his rifle and he says, like, who's that? And Django's like, all right, that's Big John, that's Little Raj. And he asks, like, where's Ellis? And he's the one hightailing it across the field. And you see Dr. King Schultz, he pulls up his rifle, puts it on his shoulder. He says, are you sure? Or wait, are you positive?
Are you positive?
And he's like, I don't know. He's like,
I don't know. You're not positive? And he goes,
I don't know what positive means.
I don't know what positive means. He goes, means you're sure. And he goes, yes, you're sure.
Are you positive?
Are you positive? Are you sure that's Little Raj? He goes, I'm positive that's Little Raj. I'm sorry, Ellis.
Yeah.
Kills him. This scene always bothered me just because I like how Tarantino uses practical effects when he does violence, but when he has a gunshot wound that's supposed to go from the side and it comes out of his chest and his back, it doesn't make much sense. The angle is so messed up. This always bothered me when I watched this.
But I love it
I'm
when
glad it got brought up again.
I love it when kind of one of the final shots is just the blood on the cotton.
Yeah.
So it's also it's like right, it's like also kind of in your face, but like it's also, and then Django says, I'm positive he did.
Yeah, those one-liners, they're always solid.
Now this, I want to so they leave this plantation. Big Daddy's not too happy, but then we realize that Big Daddy is secretly the head of the kind of little small KKK clan in whatever county they are in. And then, of course, Jonah Hill is a part of that clan, which this is honestly one of the funniest parts of the movie.
Yeah, I was going to say this is my favorite scene, but it's just comedic relief. There's not really a point to the scene other than just kind of taking a break from all the seriousness and the suspense.
I love how, they first show the horde of the KKK running down, like cheering, and then like there's intense music, and all of a sudden it cuts to them like giving their preparation
Arguing
speech.
But he's
like, all right, we're gonna go down there. He's like, I can't. Oh, I can't see. I was like, who cut these? And then there's arguing. He's like, my wife went through hell and hell for you, and all you hear is criticize.
Yeah.
It's like, no, next time you need some masks, don't ask me for nothing.
See, that's where the great writing comes. I mean, if that scene was written any worse than that, we would have bashed him over it just because, like, what's the scene in here for? It doesn't make any sense. It's stupid. But it's so well written that it makes you laugh and it makes you really want these guys to screw up. And when they eventually get blown up,
you're like, all right,
it's satisfying.
I
It's like the Three Stooges like falling down a well. It's really fun to watch.
Also want to give a shout out to the two guys who say, all right, so how about this time we go no bags, but next time we go bags and we go full regalia.
Yeah.
All right. So, and then Big Daddy's like, I didn't say no bags. Who cares? If you see, as long as the horse can see, that's all that matters. It's a raid. Who cares?
How about the guy horse when they're going to the cart? He's on the horse and he's still yelling, I can't see. Yeah. That's fun. That's a really fun scene.
And then Django Django kills Big Daddy. Well, you think he kills Big Daddy. They kind of just show the horse get some blood on it, and then Big Daddy falls. Some people thought that Django missed and hit the horse, but the horse still continues to run. So, Big Daddy definitely dies.
Yeah, and this is kind of where my kind of too critical on this part, but they basically sum it up to Django's never held a gun before until
the kid's a natural.
The kid's a natural.
Awesome.
Just given it in his DNA, but it's like, come on, sir, you don't have a better explanation of why he can hit somebody from at least 50 yards away. I mean, that's for a guy who's never held a gun before.
Yeah.
I felt that was a little bit.
And it's a pretty far shot. He's also on a horse going like full speed.
Yeah, it's a far-fetched claim.
But
the kid's a natural.
The kid's a natural. Yeah, awesome.
Probably better than an Olympic shooter.
Awesome.
But
yeah. But they make a couple quick left and rights, and they get to this awesome winter. They make a deal, and they say, hey, you stay with me through the winter. We hunt. We do a lot of bounty hunting. We make a lot of money, and then we ride south to Mississippi to go to Candyland.
Now, why didn't they just go to Candyland to begin with? Why didn't they skip the winter? Was it just because they needed the money?
They needed the money because they tell DiCaprio, Candy, we'll pay you $12,000 for your best, and they needed the money. That was kind of actually thinking about it. They don't really say that right away, but they say like you stay with me till the winter. We like split our profits.
I'm guessing it's just because they needed the money just in case, for and I think Christoph Waltz's character was going to keep him, trying to make him as much money as possible before he helped him out. But I want to bring up that scene I talked about earlier where they're at the main the first town where they shoot the sheriff and then they get the marshal. That's where they set the tone of they have to follow the law instead of, it's like it's not a video game where you can just go in and blast everybody and do whatever you want. So that's it set a tone of, hey, we have to follow the law, and our plot is going to revolve around getting away with this with the law on our side.
No, definitely true. You make a great point actually, because that's like right when Big Daddy and them all come at them with guns. Like they drop their guns, they throw their hands up.
Yep.
If you reach in my pocket, there's a little letter from the judge.
Yeah.
It says we can do whatever we want, and then like.
Right.
So they are working within the law.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume, maybe unless Dr. King Schultz forged that signature, but you're meant to believe.
You have to suspend a little disbelief on how the marshal didn't realize how the marshal was going to prove that, or how Dr. King Schultz was going to prove that the sheriff that he shot earlier was actually the guy he talked about. So you have to suspend a little disbelief, which I'm fine with in a movie like this.
So before we head down to Old Mississippi and Candyland, we're going to take a quick break. Tonight we are sponsored by CJ's Bar and Pub. It's in the alleyway.
Is CJ's a pub? I don't think it's a pub.
CJ's Bar, then? Is it just CJ's?
I think it's just CJ's in the alley.
CJ's Oxford. See, I normally write up what we're sponsored by.
Because pub means you have to have food. So.
Dive bar.
Okay.
Dive bar. CJ's Dive Bar, 25 East High Street. If you go on, actually, don't go on Yelp because they got some pretty bad reviews. But if you ever need a bar rental or just a kind of a quiet night, not like Brick Street or anywhere else. Head down to CJ's. It's in the alleyway. It's right next to Mac and Joe's. But here's a good classic tune from Jim Croce, and I Got a Name.
Like the pine trees lining the winding road, I've got a name, I've got a name. Like the singing bird and the croaking toad, I've got a name, I've got a name. And I carry it with me like my daddy did, but I'm living the dream that he kept here. Moving me down the highway, rolling me down the highway, moving ahead so life won't pass me by. Like a north wind whistling down the sky, I've got a song, I've got a song. Like the whippoorwill and the babies cry, I've got a song, I've got a song. And I carry it with me and I sing it loud. If it gets me nowhere, I go there proud. Moving me down the highway, rolling me down the highway, moving ahead so life won't pass me by. And I'm gonna go there free. Like a fool I am and I'll always be. I've got a dream, I've got a dream. They can change their minds but they can't change me. I've got a dream, I've got a dream. Oh, I know I could share it if you want me to. If you're going my way, I'll go with you. Bend me down the highway, rolling me down the highway, moving ahead so life won't pass me by. Bend me down the highway, rolling me down the highway, moving ahead so life won't pass me by.
And ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning back in to We're Gonna Need a Bigger Blog. I'm your host, Alec Holker, and I got a special guest here tonight, Rocco Pangallo.
I am here.
God, dude, you got all right. Everybody kind of gets excited when like they get announced, but that's fine. All
No,
right.
I do the humble approach. Yeah. Thanks for letting me be here. Really appreciate it. Try to be as stoic and as awkward as possible in the air.
You're doing great. So Rocco made a great point that this soundtrack, even though it is a lot of very, besides Jim Croce and of course James Brown and Tupac songs, it's a lot of more symphony and a lot of Italian music that he plays. Ennio Morricone, he's very known for his soundtracks from what is he does he all right he did The Good and Bad and the Ugly, he did Once Upon a Time in the West, he did Cinema Paradiso.
Okay. I didn't know that.
The name is so familiar. I've seen the name a lot. Okay. He did Hateful Eight, of course.
Okay. So spaghetti westerns. He did a lot of spaghetti westerns. He's familiar with the western genre.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is
And now, was he in track of the entire soundtrack, or was just the symphony?
no. So he is listed on. So he's got Un Momento, Sister Sarah's theme, the Brain Mole, and that's it. So I was seeing the name a lot. But there's also this like the name is Nicaragua. There's Anacora Queen. But you remember the song "Too Old to Die Young"? That's when after he breaks out, he's just riding on the horse, and like dust is coming off. Like, yeah, that's it. Like, so, like, I mean, like in all Tarantino movies, I think the soundtrack is very important. But the soundtrack is important to any movie. But
Yeah,
like,
man. Billy Kay, the 70s for
Billy Kay and the Sounds of '70s.
Oh man, I love that soundtrack, man.
Oh, that's
great.
stuck in the middle. Yeah, exactly.
I still listen to that.
No,
I'll go on Spotify.
Stuck in the Middle with You by
Reservoir
Steelers
Dogs
Wheel is
soundtrack.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Little Green Bag by George
Green Bag.
Baker Selection.
Gotcha.
Hooked on a Feeling.
Hooked on a Feeling. Yeah.
Blue Swede, definitely bangers.
Magic Carpet Ride. I mean.
Yeah, of course.
That,
Yeah, no,
that
so-
soundtrack killed it. That's.
Yeah, and I think that that's important to any aspect of any movie. But I think Quentin Tarantino, I bet he takes at least maybe probably a good amount of time. I was about to say just like a week, but I bet he takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And picks every soundtrack like perfectly. Like the closeout song that I'll be playing, it times up perfectly right when Candyland explodes.
Right.
Like right when the beat drops. While the Too Old to Die Young is going, like the main guitar is going while like he's riding the horse. I Got a Name is playing right as they're riding, just like riding off into the sunset. Unchained Payback with Rick Ross, not Tupac.
No,
and
that's you're thinking of 100 Black Coffins.
well, yeah, that's Rick
Yeah,
Ross.
yeah.
And that, I mean, even when that's played, that's just perfect. Like it's just
Yeah. Okay. This is where we're gonna disagree.
so. All right, so we'll once we get there.
Yeah.
So they go to Mississippi. They do kind of like a pretty not gruesome shot, but a disturbing shot of a lot of slaves being walked through the town of Mississippi. Some of them have like cages on their heads. Kind of gives you a glimpse of what it was. But this is where we meet Monsieur Candy, or Calvin Candy, but he doesn't speak French. But he just likes to go by Monsieur,
Yeah.
played by Leonardo DiCaprio, the GOAT. But we meet him at a very interesting time. He's hosting a Mandingo fight, which is a Mandingo fight in the movie is two slaves, very muscular and large slaves fighting each other to the death. Interesting entertainment choice. I prefer not that, honestly. I just don't. I think that'd be very gruesome to watch. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's pretty gruesome. Arms broken, eyeballs are plucked out.
Yeah, and you could tell when they try to sell this idea that they're Mandingo, traders or Mandingo trainer, or, they're Mandingo, managers.
Yeah, that's kind of what they are.
When they're trying to sell that, and King Schultz is watching this fight happen, he shows obvious discomfort, which is pretty bad when you're trying to sell this to this guy to keep the plot moving.
You see, his disgust is displayed perfectly. He's like, this is like insane.
He says in the beginning, and we talked about it earlier, where his kind of German heritage doesn't really, slavery doesn't really make much sense. But you could tell this is where it kind of comes in. It's his fundamental disagreement with how the southern United States is. So that's a good way to put it. That's a
Definitely.
good way to show it.
Definitely. And of course, Big Fred, Calvin Candy's White Knight, wins very gruesomely. But this is the Mandingo business is what Dr. King Schultz and Django are kind of they're portraying themselves as Mandingo buyers.
Yeah.
To also hopefully find Bromhilda.
Yep.
Which
This is where I start to not like the movie. This is where the movie becomes kind of harder to watch on a second and third watch. It's where the plot doesn't make sense because why go this path with it? Why not just direct go to a candy? They never really explain too much. King Schultz tries to explain it with an analogy of like trying to buy a cow from a farm. And he tries to buy the whole. He talks a story about how trying to buy the whole farm would be a better idea than just going to the farmer and approach him and say, hey, can I just get a cow? Which he, uses that analogy for trying to buy Broomhilda to get her freedom and reunite her and Django. And this is where I believe Tarantino can do better in writing a plot. It won best screenplay.
Best original
screenplay. Which
that's impressive.
It's impressive, but I think, compared to his other movies, the plot made more sense. The decisions made more sense. The plot, the whole idea that they're going to go pretend to be Mandingo fighter traders, just kind of they have to build everything upon that premise. Yeah. And that I think that's where it's fundamentally flawed, is because they have to go through that entire thing.
And it's also flawed because one, Dr. King Schultz is walking around with an African American. That automatically that sends a red flag to one, Calvin Candy, two, Calvin Candy's Butch.
Yeah.
And I love the first time Django and Butch are in the same room, and he's like, even I know not to wear a hat in Sad White Man.
Yeah, it makes it hard, because then you have to accept the coincidence that since Broomhilda is German and Dr. King Schultz is German, that they can try to just say like, hey, can I get her? He
kind of pulls that out of his pocket. He's like, I want to.
Huge amount of luck that you have to again suspend your disbelief with. But I think this is where the line where it goes a little too bit far with Tarantino. In other movies, I don't have to accept these consequences or coincidences that much.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like Rocco said, this is when Rick Ross's... Well, once they depart for Candyland, Rick Ross's 100 Black Coffins just comes in the background.
Yeah, man.
Right after Django just immediately threw someone on the ground.
Yeah, it makes me cringe, man. I don't know how you think it's perfect.
So I like it. It's like they time it up right after Walter Goggins, right? That's his name.
I don't want to say it made me cringe. It made me raise my eyebrows. I'll give you that.
So isn't that Walter Goggins?
Yeah.
So Walter Goggins, like, they all kind of freak out after Django.
In the sunset with you.
Yeah, he's like, so Django kind of threw someone on the ground. He like broke his leg. He couldn't even walk.
He's kind of showing he's not taking any crap from these guys.
And
he's a free man. He's basically equating himself to a white person,
and everybody else,
black.
Yeah, and everybody else is still like, denounced to it. But except DiCaprio, Candy, he's like, he's like everybody else here. We just gotta and Walter Goggins goes like, you were one lucky black man, and he's like, I'm gonna be walking in the moonlight with you. You want to hold my hand? And then it's just kind of
it's a big stick contest, and then it transitions. This is part where I don't get. Why? Yeah,
it's very aggressive for them just riding horses very slowly. Which that's what I like. And that's what I like.
I don't get the song choice just because one, it doesn't reflect any of the sound. The rest of the soundtrack.
Not at all.
Except for the one
UnChained
you played on the intro to the show.
By Tupac and...
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the only other hip-hop song, which I'm kind of you have to have some consistency with your soundtrack. You can't just definitely. Because your sound is ultimately going to affect your tone of the movie. And this is where I feel like it got thrown off. And this is where my eyebrows raised. I'm like, really? You got Rick Ross in here rapping about his 100 Black Coffins? Like, what does that even mean? Yeah, it doesn't make sense to. I don't know. That's where it gets me frustrated, just because I know Tarantino is trying to, make a statement on, this is Django's movie. It's about what black people have gone through during this time. It's about black culture and celebrating that. But then he only uses those two songs. So if you're gonna make it about, trying to have this be through the perspective of, African American culture, then why not use that for the entire movie? That's my only point. And that's why I think a lot of people had raised eyebrows once that song played. Plus Rick Ross too. I mean, you can find something a little bit better than Rick Ross.
Like, yeah, Rick Ross is like, that's like 0 to 100, like right away.
Well, 100 Black Coffins, yeah. Zero coffins to 100 Black Coffins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't think. Nice, hey, good catch. But we arrived to Plantation Candy, and we realized that DiCaprio, who plays Candy, his plantation is known. It's like the third highest plantation in Mississippi.
Yeah,
it's massive. They have plenty of henchmen, dozens of henchmen, more than enough slaves, and then they have Steven, who's played by Samuel L. Jackson, who's kind of like
He's got like Stockholm syndrome for a slave.
but he's just acting.
That's what I meant. No. He's what are you talking about? Samuel Jackson's acting, of course, but I'm talking about his character.
I mean, then he gets like when he brings Calvin into like the library room, he gets like he gets like serious, and he's just like he's just like starts talking like we're normal. What do you mean? I don't know what you mean by Stockholm syndrome.
Well, I'm saying like he basically he's almost racist himself against black people, even though he's a black person.
Yeah.
So I'm saying like Stockholm
okay.
syndrome is in like you're in love with your captors. It's basically like he's accepted. He feels like he's part of the plantation house, and that makes him above the field workers and the outsiders coming in.
Yeah,
that's what I meant by.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Okay.
I've honestly never heard that term before.
Okay,
but yeah, he sees Django on the horse. He freaks out.
I learned Stockholm syndrome from Always Sunny, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's where I learned that term. So.
So Steven calls out Django for being on a horse. Calvin tells him to be quiet. He's just like you.
Mm-hmm.
But also, shortly after, Steven barks an order to 3 of the henchmen, and they go get Hildy out of the hot box for trying to escape. Which you see Django gets very like you see his whole motions like. It almost like he almost explodes there.
God, can you imagine that? I mean,
that's like, and like one of like that's the one that soundtrack is very. I don't even know what.
I can't remember that scene specifically, but I remember the scene,
song is very. It's like very. I think this is it. Yeah, this is it. Yeah, this is the song that they play. Like it's just like
as she's walking out,
as they're walking over, and then they pour water on it, and even Django is just like he's boiling.
Yeah, that's a good scene. That's a good music choice.
Yeah, it's just
see that's what I'm saying. But if you threw in Kanye when he's doing that wouldn't make sense, right? That's why I don't agree with the Rick Ross.
No, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. But then and also while that's being played, so then the dinner gets ready. Django actually does reveal himself that he is there with Hildy. So, which honestly, that was a terrible idea because then that Hildy gets all flustered around Django during the dinner scene.
Yeah.
And
the cover's blown.
And the cover's blown.
Yeah.
And immediately Steven catches on, starts asking questions, and right away the jig is up.
Yeah. And this is where I commend this movie just because this is how Tarantino builds. The suspense of this movie is so good just because Tarantino is so good at building suspense upon his plots. But the fact that the plot is built upon such a dumb premise on how you have to basically have a facade that you just made up like a week before, and then you have another side objective you have to accomplish. This is where it's almost like it's something that's predicated on something stupid, which I don't know. But the suspense is so good that it makes up for that.
Like the entire scene, and the one, so Steven, like I said before,
and the excellent acting. I mean, the excellent
DiCaprio
writing.
kills it.
Yeah.
He smacks the bottle.
improv,
He keeps going while his hand is bleeding. That's been in so many like videos how like actors have continued.
You got the 1 in 10,000 speech.
Yeah, that's also
great speech. I mean,
bringing in DiCaprio was a huge plus for Tarantino.
Yeah.
Completely jumps from like his normal like Uma Thurman, Samuel L. Jackson, like Bruce Willis, that kind of group, and then just jumps it to a whole nother level.
I was surprised Eli Roth wasn't in this movie. I was really surprised.
Yeah. But yeah, he did make Hateful Eight.
That's what I'm saying, because he kind of played the same character.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, and he was also kind of wearing Dr. King of Schultz stuff, which
I think
was funny.
that might have been a nod to it too.
So no, they just come in. This is called Undercurrents is next, ladies and gentlemen, as always with Zach and Alec on Wine and Cheese Night segment, but cheese and wine. But so this is the dinner scene, and DiCaprio talks about the 3 lumps on the skull, about how they smacked a hammer into old Ben's skull, which is very gruesome.
It's kind of the first time we've got racist scientists.
Yeah,
racist
definitely.
science in movies. This is the first time I've experienced it.
And of course, but then they end up purchasing Brumhilde. They end up making a deal for like $12,000.
Talk about the improv that we already got.
Yeah, of course we did. Do you think we didn't?
Isn't that phenomenal?
It's phenomenal. Yeah. So
And then we get to the main.
the shootout.
Oh my God, the handshake.
The handshake. Yeah,
Yeah.
this was what Rocco was freaking out about.
I can't get over the handshake, man.
I insist.
This is where
he
I bring,
insists.
This is where I bring the movie down a few points, just because you have this suspense that's built on dumb premises, and it's like, come on, man, you shake his. That's where
DiCaprio. Yeah, DiCaprio
almost-
like does his like. In Chickasaw County, a deal ain't done until you shake my hand, which is okay. That's like the one point.
And I put this on Tarantino's. It's a little lazy writing, just because he's like, you need about 10 to 20 more minutes of action to fill. Give him a reason. Okay, he won't shake his hand because he's stubborn, which is completely off character for Christoph Waltz's character.
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense at all.
But it makes sense because he just wants to kill plantation owners. Like
it makes sense because he disagrees with the idea of slavery and stuff. But it doesn't make sense with his calm, like, follow the law of nature. That's where I disagree.
Yeah. But of course, then a crazy shootout happens, and that's where UnChained Payback comes in, which is awesome. It's very bloody, and of course, Django does not escape. Yeah, we're almost.
We're out of time. You want to do like a final summary?
So so quick. Well, of course, we'll do a quick. Let's hear your rating.
Quick analysis.
Yeah,
I would give it I would say a 6.5, 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10.
Yeah, and that's probably being a little bit too generous. I would still take it down a few notches.
7 out of 10. I give it an 8.3.
Yeah. I can't believe that's your.
I love it, but also this is one of my favorite scenes.
Steve, how you like my...
Talks about his
Duds.
duds, his burgundy duds.
You know, for now, I didn't know that burgundy was my color.
Can't get over the him shooting her and she bounces straight back. I mean, that's Tarantino.
I count 6 shots, nigga.
I count 2 guns, nigga.
Honestly, best quote by Jamie Foxx in the entire movie. Then he blows off Samuel L. Jackson's kneecaps, blows up Candyland. And ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in to We're Gonna Need a Bigger Blog. Rocco, thanks for joining me.
Yep, thanks for having me.
Stay on for Undercurrents, ladies and gentlemen, with Alex Caldwell and his guests. Thanks.
He's the guy who's the talk of the town with the restless gun. Don't you bother to fool him around. Keeps the varmints on the run, boy. Keeps the varmints on the run. You may think he's a sleepy type guy, always takes his time.
Looking for the pleasure that he knew was so far gone, so far gone. I took a turn to myself, and I wasn't right, 'cause I saw everyone, whoever I had loved. I felt